We will move now to Dr. Salahaddin from University of Salahaddin, Kurdistan, Iraq. Please, Dr. Salahaddin, are you available? Are you there with us?
Available?
Yeah.
Yes, do you hear me?
Thank you, my colleague, Dr. Salah. Dr. Salahaddin from University of Salahaddin, Kurdistan, Iraq. He is assistant professor, head of architecture department, College of Engineering at University of Salahaddin, Erbil, Kurdistan region, Iraq. He obtained his BSc in architecture from University of Technology. By the way, he's my colleagues, and he's the best one in our stage. From Baghdad, Iraq, with honor, ranked first out of 65 students. He continued his Master of Science in Architecture in University of Technology, Iraq. He earned his PhD in Theory of Architecture in the School of Housing, Build and Planning, USA, Malaysia. He works as consultant architect and designed several important projects in Erbil city, like supplementary building in Erbil International Airport and Sami Abdurrahman Park. Further to his duties, he is acting as director of Salahaddin University new campus project. Please, Dr. Salahaddin, you will have 20 minutes for your presentation. Mike is yours.
Thank you very much, Prof. It's my pleasure to be with you today with all my colleagues and professors. It's a good opportunity to share our knowledge between us and even to discuss very sensitive issues which is related to the tradition and vernacular architecture of Erbil city. So from the start, let's just give a definition of the vernacular architecture. What is the vernacular? For us, it's considered as a type of local construction using traditional materials with local construction technologies. Therefore, it's closely connected to the context of cultural characteristics of the region. It means it represents a unique form which became a means of enduring an identity. For all of us, let's give a brief about the architecture in Erbil city. All of us knows that it had passed through different epochs with distinctive features that related to the historical evolution. Each era shaped an exceptional identity from that does not depend on the composition and physical form of space only, but it linked to the concept of meaning in a large sense. Erbil city vernacular architecture form made by the human needs. These forms are product of certain cultures which contain the national values that represent users' way of life. Meanwhile, the technological progress made sudden change and sharp deviations in the path of vernacular architecture in Erbil city. It becomes an evidence of strange constructional trends that bore with it new concepts varying much from the company's norms. These developments has resulted in new system of users requirement, and in order to satisfy these new performance of material, structure and buildings have been discovered that ultimately transform the appearance of the city. From this presentation, we will try to focus on traditional forms and methods of construction that accomplish the need of the community. The study concludes that the concept of culture impacts on the form of vernacular houses through two sets of variables. This first set are the cultural characteristics of the culture groups, while the second are the cultural factors that and their response to the culture groups. These two groups of variables impact on the house facade in different levels, building elements, composition of elements, and the composition of the facades. So let's just make, in this first slide, we can see that this is the original city of Erbil, which its famous citadel, plus the Charlie minaret, which is these two symbols, is the original identity of the city. We explained what was the vernacular architecture, but for anyone living in this area, he should realize that we have two symbols, two logos to Erbil city. The first is related to its citadel, which is located in the center of the city. And the second one is the symbolic of the Erbil minaret, or what we call Charlie minaret. Erbil city, everyone knows that it's the oldest cities on the earth. We are proud to be part of this city. It's the oldest city that's continually inhabited till today. Erbil citadel is one of the oldest frontide cities. At the beginning of Erbil city was the entire town. If we take a look about this slide, we will see that the city was, if you see this picture, if it's clear to all of you, in 1933, the city was entire city was just the citadel. And after that, the city came down to be participate in three ways we call Ta'jil, Mahallat Arab, and other areas. All these pictures give us a feeling that the city, the citadel, was a complete city inside it. So after that, as we explained, the city extended to the down, and this is the first part, how the culture transferred from the top to the down city. And this is another view of the city during the 80s. This picture is indicating what have going down right now. Frankly, we removed a lot of things in this area if you just give a construction of, in order to give a vasta to our culture, to our vernacular, to our identity. We destroyed a lot of building in this area just to give them a square, an area to be the access for our culture heritage. So what happened outside the walls of the citadel? Due to the increase of the population, and this is normal in everywhere, the change in the lifestyle, three neighborhoods have been destroyed, constructed, sorry. This neighborhood, even with this neighborhood, you will see that we get a grand bazaar, which is livable till today. These three neighborhoods were Khanaqa, Ta'jil, and Arab. Everyone working in this area know this area, that we have a very, very, very unique identity in these three parts in the old part of the city. But recently, the area that surrounded the citadel is considered a buffer zone. That was a very good plan, that giving a planning of buffer zone and with specific regulation, do not let anyone to destroy this area. Basically, the architecture, formal typology of buildings in this area will be the core of our concern. If we take a look about this diagram, we will see the green one is the citadel, was, let's say that was the old city. And for the first red line, you will see the city expanded for the red line. Then it's expanded to the blue line, what right now we're calling buffer zone A and buffer zone B. By the way, I presented in last seminar the regulations of buffer zone in both A and B, and how we can conserve our heritage and vernacular architecture in these three unique zones. So this is another part in our culture, which we call the Grand Bazaar. Grand Bazaar, again, is unique. It's recently You see, we make a lot of education on the original plans to guide the new life of human beings. So our study of the vernacular architecture was concentrated on two things. The first one is the forms of vernacular architecture, while the second is the concept of culture. We will see the characteristic of vernacular architecture forms in three directions: original forms, forms that reply specific needs of human, and finally forms that reply to the values, economics, and way of life of certain culture. It means that the people living in this area. So if we take a look about all the building classification, we will find in the heart of building classification, we have something called vernacular. I think it's important for all of us, so let's concentrate more on it. So the characteristics of vernacular architecture, according to the research that have been applied with my colleagues, that we have form, models, generate needs, modification, it will create a new model, and it will be part of vernacular society. So Paul Oliver defines the vernacular architecture. He says that it's kind of architecture comprise the dwelling and other buildings of the people related to their environmental context and available resources that are constantly honored or community built utilizing traditional technologies. All forms of vernacular architecture are built to meet specific needs, combination, the values, economics, and the way of life of the cultures that produce them. So what we have, what we will see is the product of the values, economics, and the way of life of the cultures that we are part of it. So if we take see that we have a response of their characteristics, the items of vernacular architecture, this internationally, we will see that regional forms, we have materials, we have technologies. Then forms that reply specific need of human, and finally, forms that reply to the values, economic way of life of a certain culture. The third one is very important for us to see it's the translation of our culture or not. So here, before we starting our study, we give a brief about the cultural factors, the main cultural factors that impact on the definition of the forms in vernacular architecture. Buildings will be in four levels: the sociocultural factors, it means way of life, social interaction. Then we will come to the very important factor, which is the privacy. This privacy is the response of the issues differ from one culture to another. This is why searching K become maybe the concept of privacy, even in Baghdad, in compared to Mosul, in compared to Basra, in compared to Erbil, is a little bit different. Then we will come to the religious beliefs. It's a strict issues on vernacular societies. And finally, the family structure. So in Erbil city, we found something interesting. We found that the creativity in the buildings of the old Erbil appears clearly to the what? To the mosques, caravanserais, houses, and despite the simplicity of material used in this construction of the time, the creativity of builders, decorative and craftsmen are obvious and show the aesthetic quality of the building. It means that they concentrate the creativity on how they can perform and make craftsmen on the small details using, in most cases, the brick in the facades. So, in general, the form of the houses, if we all of us see in this sketch, that these houses are closed from outside and upper to inside. This is typically courtyard house. I think this idea is available all around Iraq, but it's quite clear in Erbil case. because in the outside, you cannot see anything. All the opening will be inside. Once you're going through these corridors or allays, you never see anything. Even you cannot imagine what's going on inside. But once you go to the inside, you will see there is a hierarchy of the public-private relationships within the organic urban spaces, gives the entire urban fabric a sense of privacy and territoriality. So this is an example inside Erbil Citadel. It has been renovated recently, and we are so proud right now because all the visitors, once they come to my city, they see my heritage, they see the vernacular architecture within the citadel. These parts, if you see, this is part of one houses have been renovated on the top of Erbil Citadel. So was the section of and with each rich details. And let's jump to another component of a house, which we call the space organization. So in terms of entrance, it's only way to enter the house. You don't have any choices because you have just a small void within the main facade. It's everything is closed. Just you will find an entrance that will guide you to go to inside. So this is the operation, and this is the main idea of the privacy that we are speaking about. Then you have a corridor which connects the entrance with the courtyard. Usually it has inclined path to protect the privacy of the courtyard and interior spaces. So the second part of the space organization, if we use the space syntax and main analysis of any house inside Erbil Citadel, you will see that you will get a small entrance, then a corridor in a zigzag way that connecting the entrance to the inner courtyard. Then you will find an open space surrounded by rooms, and sometimes it contains an ornamented fountain inside the courtyard. Then you will find rooms all around. In vernacular traditional houses, each room are using for different function. Number of rooms depends on the family members and other socio-economic factors. And this is the example that just giving to you. This is the plan of Yaqub Agha house. You see what we are speaking about, how the entrance you will see here in this point is exact, which guide to the open space inside, and the room is distributed all around the house. This was an example. If we see these examples, you'll see this is the corridor that guiding to the inner courtyard. This is the open courtyard. No one can see this from the outside. Sometimes the courtyard, including a fountain inside, all the rooms, is sometimes in such cases connected to the inner courtyard, and nothing is connected to outside. So in this diagram, we will see that the citadel was the city, then expanded to these three quarters, including the Grand Bazaar. Right now, it's a unique vernacular architecture in Erbil city. So this is the examples that we collected from our research for most of the elements that have been used in houses in these zones, including the citadel and three neighborhoods in the lower part of the city, which it's fully reached in terms of vernacular architecture in Erbil city. So if we make a analysis of these facade elements, you will see that we have balconies, we have the entrance that we are speaking about, and we have very small windows, but these windows is not, it's hide a little bit, so no one can see from the outside. Like other cities in Iraq, we have Shanashil, which is again this is applied in other cities in Iraq, but also we are rich in these in our houses as vernacular elements of the facade, and also the shanashir, it's normally put it above the main entrance. Another thing what you as characteristics of the facade is what we call canopy. Such kind of canopy is repeated in most cases. In most cases, the houses are rich with such canopy which has been used for the environmental issues as well as giving from the rain and sunshine. So if we concentrate more on the parapet, as we call it in Iraqi language, the sitara, you will see it's a detailed elements with the brick. This facade of details you will find in Erbil minaret, as well as it duplicated in other cities. But the pattern that have been used in Erbil city is different from other cities. So we can conclude at the end that the facade typology of the most cities can be explained in three types. The first type, what we call type 1, you see in such cases we have such balconies, but this balcony is not like the balconies that we are using nowadays. It was just like a sitara from the outside. Windows, the height of windows, if we construct on, you will see the height of windows is above the human vision level. So no one from the outside can see inside. The height is mostly above
Please,
the two.
with me.
Sorry.
You will have only 2 minutes, please.
I know, sir. I know. I designed to be in exact time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the next type. We have another pattern in the same characteristics, but you will see. So this time we have shanashil in other cases that I show you previously, such details of the vernacular houses in Erbil city. And the final type is the facade topology, what we call that we have in some cases such kind of canopies. This canopy is elements regarded to the elevation line. It's normally put it above the main entrance line. These three patterns have been considered in the vernacular traditional architecture in Erbil city. In conclusion, the traditional vernacular architecture in Erbil city represent a rich vocabulary of building form in the old part of the city. It reflects the way of life, previous generation. Nowadays, the buildings face مع الأسف deterioration in a manner that requires a very swift reaction from the local authorities to save this unique heritage. So right now we're saying to our decision maker policies to just please be careful about the heritage, because if we do not make the specific strategic plan, we will lose all what we have from the previous generation. The cultural continuity must be maintained by transforming culture meaning over generation. Heritage presents the development of urban life and the interest of the people and their traditions in the field of building and construction. Here, the architecture heritage is both presented in material and immaterial aspects. We explain the material, inshallah, next time we will explain the immaterial aspect in the next, inshallah, seminar. The improvement of the heritage domains and the maintenance of the urban and historical context require the existence of the infrastructure of legal administration, financial and policies and strategies that ensure the success of the project to implement. This is an important precondition that requires a great deal of experience, knowledge, and culture. This is no longer limited to the local and national interests. It becomes a humanitarian message in which people cooperate in carrying it out. They exchange experience about it under the supervision of specific international organization on religious study. Thank you very much. I think I controlled my presentation within the exact time. If there are any questions, I will be so glad to listen. Thank you very much again.